Hey folks, so over the last 48 hours or so, I've been hearing a lot and seeing a lot of people who are suffering massive young bird losses. What the hell's going on? What's your thoughts? I was covering Gary Tomlinson's Who Dares Wins one-off race yesterday, his second hotspot race. 477 birds were sent, and as we speak, 404 are back. So he's lost 73 birds out of 477. And he is not alone. If you know Gary, he looks after the birds like they're his own. The conditions yesterday were perfect, racing weather. The birds previously been coming back all right. The birds weren't mixed with anything else going up. He made sure that other clubs or training was going on, was not clashing. He even waited actually to make sure one kit had got let out and what have you. And yes, he's had 60 birds back today, but he's still 73 down from 477. And I've been speaking to people all over the country the same, and in Ireland as well. I know one person that's a third of their entire racing kit down, which is unheard of for them. So what is it? What the hell is going on? Yesterday specifically, like I say, up here in the Midlands, perfect racing weather, perfect day. He had other birds dropping. He had a couple of birds drop in with others that weren't his. I'm only using him as an example because I know specifically how it went down. I was watching the race and the birds coming in through the electronic online timing system. Hey, George Sylvester. Jeff Sylvester. How are you, mate? Hey, Philip. So what could it be? I don't think it's as simple as, from what I can see and know, I don't think it's as simple as blaming birds of prey only. Out of 477 birds, he had 27 drop first. He had a couple of other bunches of 10 or 15 drop, but then it was just dribs and drabs. It was like 2, 3, 4 birds at a time. The 50 that came back today, he had birds in from 6:30 this morning all the way through up until an hour ago, 50 of which. So 12% of the birds came back today in dribs and drabs again. So there's a few theories I'm hearing from people, and ultimately people that know a hell of a lot more than I do about it. But like I said, I don't think it's just the bird of prey issue. Yes, in certain circumstances, the birds of prey attacks may have an issue with certain cases. But certainly yesterday, something else was going on around here. Spoke to somebody else down on the coast, the south coast of the UK. It's as bad there as it's ever been. It's worse than it's ever been, actually. People are losing young birds en masse. Something is going on. Now, you bring some different theories into it. Some people's theories, which I think could be a valid exploratory theory for sure, is definitely something with the atmospherics. Definitely something going on with the atmospherics. I have a side note, but it's relative. I have a drone here. And when I first flew a drone a good few years ago, I flew the drone and crashed the bloody thing. It wasn't responding to how it should. I subsequently found out that the sun index, which is direct, so there's an element of weather. In fact, the BHW publish it, I think, now. The what's it actually called? What's it called, Sam?
What?
It's the sun. It's the sun index, isn't it? It's basically what the sun throws out. I'm trying to find out what it's called so I don't look like a dick. 1 second.
This is it.
Hang on, let's see. I got it. It's called the KP index. Just find out what KP index stands for then. This index was something that, like today, it's 3. Okay, so it's just a number between 1 and I think it's 10. And if it's above 2, KP. If it's above 2, you can't fly this drone. So going back to the drone, when this drone wasn't responding to me, this is like 4 years ago, I found out that you're not supposed to fly the drone unless if the index is showing a number of 3 or more, because this KP index, which is directly related to weather from the sun, directly interferes with the radio signals and the GPS controls of the drone, right? So the KP index is a global geomagnetic activity index. That's what it stands for. It stands for Global Geomagnetic Activity Index. And there's an app that you can get for drones, and it's called Hover. This is the app here called Hover. See that one there? And if you fire up this app, it'll give you this KP index. And today, the KP index is 3. Now, based on that, I haven't actually tried it with my new drone, but based on that, I wouldn't fly that drone if it was more than 3, right? Now, that's this geomagnetic index. And it's directly related to magnetic fields, which the sun gives out. There may be something in that. There's definitely something in the atmospherics. Like Jess said, there was lots of thunderstorms about. We've had them here today. There was some thunderstorms about yesterday. Now, practically, is that a big issue? As I said, this drone, which is a sophisticated piece of technology, even back 4 years ago it was, you are not supposed to fire that drone if the KP index is over 3, a reading of 3. Right at the moment, it's 3. I've seen it many times when it's 1 and 2s. So I would not be taking a drone out now very far. I mean, these drones can go for ages. Now, I think it might be worth actually getting this app. It's called Hover. It gives you actually, it's for pigeons, it's actually quite a good app, really, because it gives you a whole bunch of information: precipitation, wind flow, direction, and everything. It's worth checking out. It's called Hover. Maybe that's got something to do with it, right? Because ultimately that's down to magnetic fields, and depending on who you hear and listen to, birds are flying using some magnetic field. Let's just check out some comments. Birds of prey, hunter shooters, Stevie Waring. Yeah, ultimately, Stevie, birds of prey have an issue. Like, I was up at Gary's first hotspot race 2 weekends ago, and there's definitely a case to be said that there was some bird of prey issue with how they were coming in. But specifically yesterday, with the amount of people that had lost young birds on training yesterday, I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that. Rhino Ricketts thinks that technology is an issue. I'll come on to that. That's a good point, Rhino, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Tom says majority of the time is health. Well, I get what you're saying, Tom, but those birds of Gary specifically, the other one love race guy that I've been talking to down south, his birds are tested, perfectly healthy, what have you. Adrian Bolt says inexperienced young birds classing, then scattered. Some birds are getting, but not others. I've got birds home in their space missing. I agree. The clashing is another issue, definitely, Adrian. And certainly there's been some clashes around. But again, I think specifically given this situation up here that I'm telling you about, it's more than that. And you're right, Adrian, it's the K index. So that's it. Seriously, guys, get this phone app. It's really good. Like I say, it's actually specifically designed for drones, but it gives you so much weather info, as you can see here. It gives you the KP index easily, the visibility, precipitation, wind speed, direction. It's really good. Free app. It's called Hover. Let me show you how it looks on the App Store. So it's there. It's that yellow one there. You can see Hover there. It's well worth doing it. So yeah, Michael, it's a K factor. That's right. It's actually the KP index. There's got to be something in that. John, pleased to see you, mate. I hope you're well. Hope you had a good holiday, John Gent. We need to meet up at some point, mate, considering how local we are. I'm interested in thoughts on this. So what else have we got? John Headley, I honestly think it's the excess use of internet as at this time of year, school holidays. Interesting idea. Stevie Waring says too many satellites in the sky. If more people did what Stuart, the losses may not be the same. What did Stuart do? John, tell us what Stuart did. The ICC race from Narbonne up Sunday, nearly half UK birds clocked in on day 2. How does that explain solar activity? It doesn't really, does it? Greg, pleased to be on my thing. I will watch it, mate. I will watch your live video. Greg says you need to watch my live video today. Absolute washout. So unless 5G doesn't work in the rain, I'd be pointing my finger to peregrines, as they don't work in the wet. So this leads me on to the 5G theory. 5G aerials are going up around the country. Around here, we haven't got them. Birmingham's got 5G. We haven't got 5G yet. London's got it. Various places have got it. There are a lot of people telling me that their theory is that it's something to do with 5G. Ultimately, I'm not, although I'm quite technical and geeky and gadgety and what have you, and I know what 5G is, I don't understand the technicalities of it. But what I do know is obviously the frequencies that are used to emit 5G and send and receive data on 5G are of a higher level and of a higher frequency and what have you than 4G and 3G. I think there's probably a good exploratory reason there. There may be something to do with 5G has an interfering effect on racing pigeons. Something definitely was weird yesterday around here. Like I said, it wasn't just in the Midlands. It was like I've got from Ireland, the south, right on the coast. You know, people that are losing a third of their entire young bird team that are just not used to it. What else are we saying? Derek Teal, I will tell you, at least in the States, no one wanting to fly anything but tailwinds and perfect days. So the birds are not tough enough and can't handle anything outside perfect. I train in every weather, conditioning, pouring rain, everything. So the birds they fly through. It's a good point, Derek. But over here, with all due respect to you, that's not really happening. If anything, we see people over here flying it like we had for the UK. We had really hot temperatures here last week. It topped out at like 34, 35 degrees. People were still trading them, which I personally believe, just my personal opinion, is way too hot to be training young birds. But over here, our weather can change so much between race release point and home. There's no way you can predict perfect, training or flying conditions. And again, like I said earlier, yesterday in Gary's specific race, just because I know so much about it, that hotspot race yesterday, training race, really, perfect, beautiful sunshine, not too hot, perfect conditions, perfect winds, not very long. I think it was 70 miles. The birds had done 55 the week before. Absolutely perfect conditions. Maybe you could throw some bird of prey issue in there, but my gut feeling, and Gary's gut feeling after speaking to him today, is there was something else going on. Daniel, it is a great app. Yeah. And for those of you who have joined on, because I got nearly 50 people watching now, for those of you joining on, we've been talking about an app called Hover. And we've been talking about this KP index thing, right? So this is what it is. And again, for those of you who are watching from the beginning, apologize for repeating myself, but I'll do it briefly. This app here called Hover, and this KP index, I first learned about this through flying drones, and I crashed a drone because the geomagnetic rays coming off the sun were too high. And if that number on that Hover app goes above 3, you don't fly a drone. And that has to be something, these things are very technical and great. You don't fly if it's above 3. Worth getting this app. It's called Hover because it gives you a bunch for pigeon flyers. It's a great app because it gives you a whole bunch of info. It gives you precipitation, wind flow, wind speed, direction, hour by hour. It's really good. And it's called Hover, and it's free to download. Get it in there. You can see Hover there. Yeah, so I'm losing. I've got so many comments coming in. I'm losing them. I don't. Thomas Burr says, I don't think we would have no security or receive air signals. And what about aerospace plane? It's 90%, 97% Raptor. I'm sorry I missed your. Let me try and get it up. I've got that many comments coming in. I'm losing comments. 1 second, guys. I'm broadcasting off my. I'm broadcasting off my computer, and I can't see all the comments. What is going on here? Why can't I see all the comments? I'm missing some comments, guys, and I'm not ignoring it. I just can't. I've got that many people joining, and I can't see the comments as they're coming in. And for some reason, on my other computer, it's not letting me watch. Can you see the comments? So, if I haven't responded to your comment, please just type it again or copy and paste it again. I'm not ignoring anybody. No, it's not showing. It's not showing. Not showing the past ones. I've missed a load of comments, guys, so I apologize. Please message me with them again. It's weird. Okay, so if I haven't addressed your comment, because I intend to address every comment on it, just message me again and say it again. I'm not ignoring you. It's just I've got that many bloody notifications coming up. John, so Stuart's watching. I'll let him diverge. Okay, Johnny, birds of prey and birds not being well enough to go in a basket. Okay, with the birds of prey, Johnny, but like I said, I've seen these birds of Gary's for the one-off race, and they're in great nick. So Andrew Walton, fair point. They're still babies learning, no darkness, molting, all the stress, and say it again, they're babies. Fair point, Andrew. Fair point. Maybe it is as simple as that. Antonio Peregrines, again, fair point. Murphy, yes, it is live, mate. It is live. Andy Gibbs says there's a video I was sent about 5G and pigeons in the link. I will have a look at that video and repost it, Andy. Thank you for watching. Greg, 16-16 today in absolutely torrential rain. Much better racing than most of the weekend. Why was it so bad that the Hawks stayed at roosting, allowing birds to clear run? You have to think very few raced that weekend. All the Hawks have gone hungry. Then nice. Fair point, Greg. Maybe it bloody is the bird of prey then. What do you reckon, Zan? I need to introduce you to Zandy, right? He's going to be embarrassed because I've not told him I'm doing this. So this is Zandy. Come here, Zan. Oh, God. No, come here. Off subject for a minute. This is my youngest son, Alexander. We call him Zandy. He's 15, and he's coming to Dublin with me on Saturday for Sean Hunt's one-off race. He's just hit his handicap of single figures for golf 9, which is excellent. I don't know where he gets it from because it isn't me. So this is Alexander. He's my assistant, pigeon assistant, and he's going to be getting involved. And he's super keen to be getting involved in pigeons. He's first went to Blackpool in 2015 and has been hooked since. So he's my man that's going to be coming to Dublin with me, and is excited about going to Ireland for the first time. He's never been, and I'm going to introduce as many people to him as I can. Right, back to this, Greg. You have a valid point, mate. It's a pretty decent theory. You've had 16-16 in torrential rain, and the Hawks just stayed in to roost. All the Hawks went hungry, hit yesterday in good weather. You know what? That's a pretty decent, valid explanation.
Read that one.
Yeah, one sec, I'm catching up. Benji, people don't realise that pigeons coming home get hit by hawks so many times on the way home. Probably hit 6-7 times. Fair point. Though John says he agrees with Benji, those one-off races could have been hit several times yesterday. Well, they certainly were scattered, John. I mean, they were coming in, as I say, 27 hit first hour. There was 200 back, another 150 in the rest of the day, scattered. You only got to look at the live clocking that's on Gary's site, and then 50 today, and they were all scattered as well. Health people. John Mowbray says people not having these young birds in the same conditions as the old birds. People are leaving it way too late to train, and then they're rubbishing getting training start. I get what you're saying. I don't agree, John, with specifically with Gary's because those birds are in the best of health. But as a bigger, wider issue, I agree. Martin Cushman says 5G again. This 5G stuff needs some serious looking into. Because I've had a lot of people messaging me about 5G and their theories about it. I'm only posing the questions, guys. I am no expert. You guys watching this are far more experts in this stuff than I am. I'm just the one asking the questions. But the theory at the moment, that Greg Marshall said, or his specific case that he said today, that kind of rings true. And maybe it's a combination of things, but actually I came on thinking I don't think it specifically yes was a bird of prey issues. Maybe it is. Kevin Farrell, Kevin Farrell, hope you're well, mate. We must have that call at some point. I would love to catch up with you, considering you bought a loft off me many years ago now, 13 years ago, and I didn't realise it was you. Birds of prey and health issues, he says. In liberations, Tom says, in liberations with multiple lofts, there's usually 1 or 2 lofts that get good returns. then discounts losing pigeons from external sources. Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying about one-off race data, but I'm not just basing it on that, mate. There's a lot of people lost yesterday. A lot. Would the KP vary all over the world on the same day? Are fanciers in different countries having problems with losses? The KP, my limited knowledge of the KP index, Philip, is that, yeah, it does vary from all over the world. It will vary depending on the time of day and what have you. And that this app will tell you specifically in your area what the KP index is. So I'm here in the Midlands. It could be very different up in Scotland or way down south. And definitely by country and area and continent and what have you. So yeah, definitely. Kovath lost says, I sent 12 in the first race, 11 on the day, and one next day. Didn't drop one. Well done, mate. Things is marked viral or viruses hit with baskets. It's game over again. I know what you're saying, Kevin. I set my young birds now. Don't train at all. Leave them open hole to bond all winter, then jump them straight across the water as yearlings. Interesting, Stuart. Again, you guys are far more experts at this and racing than me. My personal thing is, if and when I ever do race and don't just focus on the one-off races, I think there's an argument for that, Stuart. I think allowing young birds to mature and then jump them in there's something in that. I know a couple of flyers on the continent that don't even race young birds. Interesting. Johnny, when training and weather, that bird of prey don't like training. It's much better with the birds. So we've got a theory developing here. Bad weather, birds of prey don't like it. Birds get through, as Greg Marshall said. Thomas Blair, we've been racing in these conditions for years. The only thing's different is the Raptors. Adrian Bolden convinces the Falcons for sure. Inexperienced birds getting put on the lorry. Brian, again, maybe in certain cases, but not all. And that's not the case with the specific one I'm talking about. Adrian Bolt, Perfect Days for Percy is a favourite. Yeah, I agree. Birds of prey, 4G, 5G, global warming, mutation and sickness have become stronger. Ingo. That's the on Ingo. Kovath, the one that last came got 3 holes in and half a tail. And that's young. From my understanding, the half a tail, the tails being got are the young birds of prey playing around with them. Derek Gibbs, poorly trained young birds. Hawks, I decided to call it a day last week. I bought some fantastic young birds. And this is Adrian Pereira. Nice to meet you, Adrian. Andy, sorry, not Adrian. Andy, so you're giving up because of the birds of prey. That is so sad to hear, mate. So sad. I'd like to speak to you, Andy. That is really sad. You bought fantastic young birds, great stock, and you just feel like you're feeding the birds of prey. This birds of prey issue's got to get resolved. Personally, I'm a lover of all animals, right? And I think birds of prey in their natural habitat is one thing. Birds of prey in artificial nesting sites that are being put up at a great rate and in places they shouldn't be, that's obviously, it needs to change. It cannot continue to happen. Kevin, I know what you're saying. Johnny, what I mean is unwell pigeons, Mark, people think they're okay, they look well fine, but if you must take heads out, sure, heads are clear and no respiratory. Yeah, Johnny, I would like to do at some point with regards to this thing you were talking about on Facebook last week. I would like to do a Facebook Live with you, Johnny, about that initiative you were talking about getting set up. I, for one, would be interested in trying to develop that initiative. Maybe, Johnny, if you're still watching, we could do a Facebook Live to talk about that and see what we can do. Let me know. Send me a text if you would, mate, and see if you're up for doing a Facebook Live to discuss it. Yeah, we're not a political force. That's the trouble. And the trouble is the RSPB have got a massive amount of money behind them. And I like to be objective and think what we can do and that something can be done. But I'm not entirely sure how to play it. I mean, ultimately, the RPRA, like them, hate them, whatever, they're the best people to do it. And I know Ian Evans is doing everything he can, but is it going to be enough to bring this on? Maybe we need to think out of the box. And what Johnny McWhirter was talking about on Facebook last week is thinking out of the box. And I, for one, would be up for it, definitely, in helping with that. Derek Colligan, Hawks and bad decisions by controllers. Wayne Conway, the biggest problem is birds of prey. We have about 16 pairs in about 40-minute radius with all young. Stuart Reed, surely if it was atmospheric, swallows and migratory birds would struggle and all loss would be affected, not some others. Fair point, Stuart. But, yeah. On the atmospheric, maybe. Who knows? This is where we need some science in this. Are young birds more prone to have magnetic fields than old birds? Are some birds more affected by it than others? I don't know. But with regards to the 5G issue, that is definitely by area, because here in the UK at the moment, 5G is only in certain areas. Stephen Kennedy, 5G. Can anyone tell me one city that hasn't a peregrine nest in it and the biggest problem we have to sort it out will be 3/4 way to solve the problem? I agree, Johnny. I agree. The biggest factor for losing race is looking back at us in the mirror. Bang on, mate. Rhino Ricketts. I don't know what else to relate to, but thank you. Or somebody else has mentioned. Johnny, okay, so you're up for doing that. Right. Johnny, for those of you who know Johnny, great guy. Known him since I kind of started back on my path into this game. And he has an interesting idea. Johnny, let me know when you'd be up for doing it. I'd like to get that done. What we'll do is we'll set it up where I can bring you in on Facebook Live. We can do it together. And we can talk about the plan. He has an interesting idea, and it's something that I personally would back. I'd even do and get involved in to help. 4G, 5G, would the RSPU not be onto it if they were changing wild birds' behavior? How the birds migrating coming back? Peregrine is the main problem, in my opinion. This is Mark Jonty saying, hey, Mark, thanks for watching. Sick pigeons also through peregrine strikes, raising chances of stress. Also paper pigeons. Christy Coigy, I hope I pronounced your name right. Birds of prey. I think, Kevin, you've got some point. There's more satellites in the air, more radio waves than any time. I think probably a combination. But this birds of prey thing that Greg said earlier, Greg Marshall said, is a bloody good case study as to why that's the case at this specific time. So maybe it is a case of a combination of stuff. William, 5G has nothing to do with losses. If it's that case, there'd be no birds home. I disagree respectfully, William, because 5G is not countrywide at the moment. It is in specific areas and not countrywide yet, which, depending on how you look at it, is worrying. Birds being shot, Chris says. Yeah, so Rhino, you're agreeing with me on the artificial nest. Like I said, I love every animal. There's not a single bird out there. There's not a single animal I don't. I am an animal lover. I don't like the idea of animals being killed. But and a bird of prey that is nesting in its natural habitat, I personally believe has every right. Now, I'm not keeping birds yet. When I kept birds here a couple of years ago, I have a starter gone, and we had birds around here, and I had birds taking young birds off the nest, and off the loft, and I hate it. I hate it. And just based on that small amount of time, I was keeping birds here with obviously, relatively short space time. But towards the end, going into the summer, obviously the birds are not rearing anymore, and I definitely saw it declining as an issue. And the starter gun that I had was a good thing. This thing Johnny's talking about with eagle owls is a thing. I'm going to get that interview scheduled, and we'll talk about that. My big thing with birds of prey, personally, is artificial nesting sites are wrong in places they shouldn't be, is my opinion. I caught racing of birds in 2005, train up to 100 miles, you can be bothered to put them on a wagon, 140 mile, lock them down, race again, 400 mile, no problem. Yeah, Johnny, tomorrow is great, mate. I'm around all day. Thank you. I look forward to it, buddy. Thank you. Chrissy Cockley, big wings and birds of prey. Good years and bad years. Well, okay, so what do we take from this? And I had 80 comments on this. What do we take from this? My take on it, for what it's worth, is people think birds of prey is still the biggest issue. And definitely Greg Marshall's case study, if you want to call it that, from his experience today and how he said it makes sense to me. Sent 16 birds on training, all 16 back, shitty weather, raining, birds of prey have gone down to nest. Yesterday, nice day, pretty much everywhere, birds of prey coming out to feed. That makes sense. I think we have to look more into the 5G. Like I said, it's sporadic areas. It's not everywhere at the moment. So it's not a case of, well, if some get lost and others don't, how can that be? Because it is in certain areas. Like in Birmingham, they have 5G now. Leicester, Derby, Nottingham don't have it so far as I know yet. Right, I'm just talking obviously local to me. So we have Birmingham that has it. I think Manchester has it. London has it. So it's not a simple case of if it's not happening for all, it's not the case. I think it's probably a combination, but based on what we've just done in the last however long, I think the overall feeling is in the last 40 minutes that it is birds of prey, and it makes sense, plus probably some other things. I definitely think, as I say, it's worth, even just to get, I'll repeat it just for people that have joined, this app called Hover. It's this one here, this yellow one here. It gives out this KP index, which is the geomagnetic field magnetic sun index. Okay, but the app itself for pigeon flyers is great because it gives you a whole bunch of info. It's free. It gives you precipitation, visibility, wind speed, direction, all kinds of stuff. Well worth getting. Hover, it's called. It's actually for drones, but it's really good. Copeth Lofts, eagle owls. Well, that's what Johnny's talking about. Johnny's got a plan and a proposition, and I'm going to support it and him. So I'm going to speak to Johnny McWhirter tomorrow, and we're going to do a Facebook Live, he and I, and I'm going to get him to tell you more about it and how people can help. But what you just said there, Copeth Lofts, about eagle owls is a valid point, and that's what Johnny's talking about. Stuart Reed, I also think in the years people could only afford to keep very few birds, so we're very selective in breeding, and birds were kept for racing. Nowadays, every egg that hatch has a ring put on it, and most of these young birds would not make the grade years ago. Interesting idea, Stuart. Nobody's doing with those non-government organisations we put in artificial nests. Christy, I agree. These artificial nesting sites are a major issue. As I say, birds in natural habitat, I have an issue with personally. I know I'd be saying that. Like, I was keeping birds in 2016. It was a horrible nightmare because I was getting birds took off the loft. It was bloody horrible. As Andy's nodding his head, it was horrible. He had a couple of his own birds took off the top of the loft, and when he was 12 years old, then it was bloody horrible for him. So I get it, but I don't like natural birds. I mean, there's an argument all birds are natural, but being called. What I think the biggest problem is all of these artificial nesting sites. They're just annihilating everything, and it's not right, and it needs to be stopped somehow. How that happens, I don't know yet. Definitely birds of prey. William says, I think it's down to the weather and the wind turbines. I would disagree, Shane. I got a wind turbine not 300 foot from me, and I was flying birds here when it was up, and it never affected them. It's a fucking great big thing as well. It's a really big one. But weather conditions, yeah. On the day, the size of the batch of birds is going to attract birds of prey. Agree, and that's why I put a poll out about if one-off races should train, not in the hotspot races, obviously the main races, but should train their birds in smaller batches. And people said, no, they're all equal. Well, that wasn't the point. They should all be treated equal. That wasn't the point. The point was smaller batches being released for training in one-off races. It creates less of a target. That was the whole point. But actually, the vote was, no, they should all be let go. But I think some people missed the point, with all due respect, as to why it was done. Ornithosis is the problem, I think. Crean O'Connor, how you doing, John? Pleased to see you tuning in, mate. It's like anything. It's not any one single thing. It's falcons that put young birds miles off course. Many don't have the experience or qualities or wider colour viruses that still don't really understand. And one huge problem around the country, fences don't see the problem, and nowadays the symptoms are very subtle. Fair point. Like, when I was at that hotspot race at Gary's, the birds, the second batch came over through the loft. And then if they are, like you said, if they are scared off by birds of prey, they're just going to keep flying, and then they're done. Feeding has changed. Jack Barry says 70s, if the beans, peas and tars, they all had fuel to get back home. If they make a mistake now, they have to feed today. A small factor. It's the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the peregrine. Another one to think about is how bad breeding season we had weather-wise. Small batches, better chance. So yeah, fair point. So feeding is something to do with it as well. I agree with smaller batches. Who sets 5G? What's your thoughts? Jason, we talked about 5G.